not one. I do have that. Show me again which one is. A lot of twos. Then I'm seeing a few fours more than anything else. And now I'm seeing a few fives. Okay, so we'll do 2, 4, and 5 for this one. Great. When we evaluate, what does that mean? What am I supposed to do with this negative 1/3? Put it in for x. So for all of your x's, you're going to put in negative 1/3 instead. You should be using parentheses. And then to go back to how we were doing it before, do each step. So this would become a positive 1/9 minus, this would become a negative 3/3, which becomes negative 1 minus 2. Then this part you can either do in your calculator or by hand. So 1/9 minus 1 minus 2 is negative 26 ninths. Have any questions about that one? You did not use parentheses here and you got a negative. You have to use parentheses. Number 4. Solve the following equation for x. You needed to distribute a couple times. So we have 32x minus 16 minus x plus 10 equals 15x plus 10. And then combine like terms. So when you combine these x's, you get 31x. Negative 16 plus 10 was negative 6. From this, how many solutions should we have? 1, none, infinitely many? 1. We have different coefficients. So, and then how you chose to solve that was up to you. Let's say we subtracted 15x on both sides and added 6. Was that 16? Correct me if I was wrong. And then divide both sides by 16. So that x was 1. Isn't it negative 16? The way I subtracted it, I got confident that if you did it the other way, like subtracted 31, you would have got a negative, and the negative would have got a positive. Number 5, you should have graphed this directly onto your answer sheet. Start at your y-intercept of 1. your slope is -3 over 1. So you can go up 3 and to the left 1 as many times as possible. You should be filling up your graph. Down 3 to the right 1 as many times as possible. There would be technically another point right here, but you didn't need that one. Draw your line through it. Make sure you have arrows at the end. This line is really small, but there are tiny little arrows at the end. Questions on that one? If you haven't already, take out your notes from yesterday. Go back to this page. For those that weren't here, we continue the same notes from Monday. And then we didn't start these, but we're going to do that today. These are very similar to the ones we were doing yesterday. The difference is previously we were given a point and the slope and 1 point. Now we're not given the slope and we're given 2 points. And because of that, we now have to find the slope and then do everything we were doing yesterday. So it's an added step. So to find our slope, we're going to use our slope formula, our y2 minus y1.
What page is that?
They're not numbered. The one that's before this. Over x2 minus x1. So we're going to use that to find our slope for all of these and then do the process that we were doing. Anyone else do not have that thing? So we're going to do that for number 1. And we're going to label them if you need to. x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have 4 minus 1 all over 2 minus 3. Simplify, subtract that. What would your slope be?
3 over -1.
Which will simplify to be
-1. I mean -3.
Mm-hmm. So we have our m. Then you have a choice. You can choose either of the points to use your point slope formula. We're going to do one, and then I'm going to do the other to show you that it works. You don't have to do the second one. Only do one. So let's say I choose the first one because it says x1, y1. That's what our formula says. You don't have to choose that one, but you can. So then, just like we were doing before, we have y. Y minus 1 equals our slope, -3, times x minus 3. And just like yesterday, we would distribute and get y by itself. So y minus 1 equals negative 3x plus 9.
Is that a negative 3 for the
Yes.
parentheses?
When we add 1, what would our new equation become?
Y equals negative 3x plus 8.
Not plus 8.
Oh, plus 10.
10.
Is
Yes.
that a 9 next to the...
Yes. Alright. Leave some space to do work for number 4, but underneath that, if you want to do this part, I'm going to show how we would do the other one, and it would also work. So we already have our slopes, so we don't need to refine that because that's going to be the same. But now we're just going to use this point instead. So it would be y minus 4 equals our slope, negative 3. I'll pull this up here in 1 second. Times x minus 2. And then the process, you would do the same, distribute. So y minus 4 equals negative 3x plus 6, and then we add 4 on both sides. So you would get the same thing either way. That's a good way to check yourself. Do the other one, see is it the same. If it's not, you either messed up with the second one or with the first one. But it doesn't matter which point you use. Questions on this process? Okay, let's do another one. Let's skip 2 and go to 3. Again, first step, find the slope. We have 0 minus negative 8 over negative 7 minus 5. What would that slope be?
8 over negative 12.
Which would simplify to be
4.
negative 2. When you have an ordered pair that has a 0 in it, use that. It'll make your life a little bit easier, a little less work to do. Sometimes it's not the case. So I'm going to use this second point. You could still do the first and you'll get the same answer. So this would be y minus 0 equals negative 2/3 times x minus a negative 7. So when we were doing these problems and we had a negative, either with the y or in the x, I said you have to change that first, make it a plus before you do anything else. So before you distribute, you have to change that to a plus. If you start to distribute and you haven't changed it to a plus, you're going to end up with the wrong answer. When we distribute this, we're going to end up with a fraction. Sometimes that happens. This is just going to become y equals negative 2/3 x. What is that fraction?
Negative 14 over 3.
Negative 14 over 3. So our equation, y equals negative 2/3 minus 14 over 3. It's not a nice equation, but that is our equation. Alyssa, did you have a question? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have a question on that one? Here, because I'm using this one, our y value would be 0. So it'd be y minus 1. Other questions?
When you do like 0 minus -8, how do you get positive 8?
So the same thing that happened in here, this became a positive, this would become a plus. 0 minus -8 would become a plus. So if you did that in your calculator, you get a positive.
So it's 2 negative.
Alright, let's do another, and then you guys are gonna try some. Let's do 4. So let's find the slope first. You have 8 minus 3 over 0 minus a negative 1. What is our slope?
6 over 1.
It's
Not 6, but 5.
Oh.
It is just 5. 5 over 1, which would just be 5. Now, before we start doing the work, we do have an order pair that has a 0 in it, but it's the opposite order of that one. What is this point?
What do you mean?
If you look at it, someone said it.
Undefined.
That's a slope. It's the y-intercept. So if this is your y-intercept, you don't have to do the work. You can just put your slope and your y-intercept together. Y equals 5x plus 8.
Okay, so we're doing the solid work just to find the y-intercept?
If you're given the y-intercept, you don't have to do the work.
Yeah, but these others are just like finding the y-intercept.
Correct. It's finding the equation, but also finding the y-intercept, yes. Now you can still do the work. So let's say you forget this is your y-intercept, you could still do the work, it'll still give you the same thing. But if you recognize that that is your y-intercept, you don't have to do the rest of the work. Still have to do the work to find the slope, but not the rest of the work. Alright, questions on that one?
So you have to find, so that's the y-intercept. How do you get that? Oh, okay.
Yes, I know. So this one and this one, this is an x-intercept. So when we put that in, it wasn't the same. The ordered pair, this is a y-intercept, so if I plotted this, it would be on the y-axis. So I could do the same work, you would get the same thing. In the next 10 or so minutes, I want you to do as many of these 3 that you can. If you finish them in the next 10 minutes, raise your hand, I'll come check them. The first thing we'll do tomorrow is go over these if you don't have time today. But work through those 3, compare with the people around you. Let me know if you have